So the X-Drive band project is headed up by Jeremy Brunner, who is a guitar player songwriter from Oregon. A couple of years back, Jeremy contacted me over the internet and said, hey, I've got this project, these are the details, you think you might be into singing on it, let's work out a deal.
Singer is Keith St. John. I had all the music, I just needed a writing partner, like the way Van Halen did it. Eddie did all the music, Dave did all the lyrics type relationship. So I present all this music to Keith, and I have no idea what it's going to sound like, but it was like exactly the type of thing I was sort of envisioning. So it worked out quite well. The bass player is James Lomenzo.
I had recently worked with James with George Lynch, and I know about James's body of work and was really excited that he was on this project.
I met Jeremy many years ago at a show that I was playing, and he approached me about doing some drum tracks for him on a project. So I ended up getting together with him over a couple of weekends and getting the drum tracks recorded, and it was a lot of fun, and we wrote some really great songs.
I had no idea what to expect from the drummer, Fred, because I hadn't met him, I had never jammed with him when I sang these tracks. So when we jammed together for the first time at the California video shoot, I was really surprised and blown away. And the guy's really solid. He's a really great drummer, and it was a pleasure working with him.
Fred Fischer, he's from Boise, Idaho. I've known him since like '96, I think. So I go to the show, Enough's Enough, and he was in the opening band. I thought he was awesome. He didn't overplay, but he was like really good, and his drums were tuned just like, I don't know, he just had the sound.
Win Davis, if you're not familiar, is an engineer-producer who has been around producing rock music for a long time.
The first time I heard about the song California was in context from Keith and Jeremy, and it was that Andy Johns had mixed the first version of this song. Later on they had changed some things, and the version of the song that appears on at least the worldwide release and in the body of the record is the one that I mixed. If you get the Japanese import, you'll also get to hear Andy John's version of this song, which is also really cool.
Probably one of my favorite songs on the record is California, simply because I think it encompasses what you might imagine California to be if you've never been there. And if you've been there in Hollywood and the Sunset Strip, it kind of feeds off living your dreams of playing music and hoping to make it to the big time.
I like them all, but I'm not ever in the belief that, you know, someone's like, oh, that's just filler, don't waste no time with it. It's like put 900% into every single song. My favorite track, I would say, is Change of Heart.
Sometimes it's just a change of heart, and there ain't nothing that you lack. Sometimes you know it ain't the stars.
The verse is kind of a strummy minor thing, and I was thinking, you know, I woke up this morning, looked in your eyes, daylight was pouring, something had died. You know, it was a typical Torch breakup thing. And then I got to the chorus, and the chorus had this really majory, uplifting feeling to it. And kind of just at that moment that I was hearing the music, I was like, I'm going to describe this as a good thing. You know, sometimes, honey, people just have a change of heart.
Change of Heart, that's one of my favorite songs on the record because it completely changes the whole complexion of the record for me. It's a songwriter's song, it's acoustic, and it reminds me of records that I used to love when I was a kid that had a combination of hard rockin' songs, and then you'd find an acoustic song in the middle of the record.
Fly Beyond the Angels is just a straight up love song. Girls, if it makes you shiver, keep listening.
Had it been released in the day, it probably would have been a hit.
What is this tragic love? Lord, I'm stepping on the rock, but maybe I'm just too blind to see.
Steppin' on the Rock is that song on the record that everybody that's been involved with it that I've run into is kind of like, hey man, is that song about this? Is that about this? What is it? And Jeremy's like, well, ask Keith what the rock is, you know. And I don't even know if I want to say what it is, but let's just say that it doesn't have anything to do with drugs or rock like music, although you could take it that way. This is one of those songs that touches on the deeper meanings of life, takes you down that wormhole, and makes you think about who you are and why you're here. One thing about being in the studio with Andy Johns, you were best friends. You were like instantly best friends. Andy just had that character about him. He was such a proper, well-spoken English gentleman. And no matter what you were doing, he knew how to compliment you. He knew how to sort of be the host. Even if he was the last guy that just walked in that day and everyone else had been working for a week, he was the host. And he glued everyone together and he made you feel great.
He really knew how to work with an artist and make you feel good, to make you feel confident, you know what I mean? And you really need that when you're recording and the red light's on, and he made it feel, you know, very comfortable. He like helped pull stuff out of you instead of giving negative vibe. There's no negativity whatsoever. He was like a total professional that way.
Jeremy and I went over to Andy's house, sit on his couch and talk about bands, and he was very complimentary towards me and my drumming, and which really means a lot coming from a guy that's worked with John Bonham.
I'm one of the millions of people that wishes he was still here. God bless Andy Johns. There are many stories behind the making of the X-Drive record, and many of them only Jeremy can tell because he's been working on this record for half a dozen years. He's gone through trials and tribulations with different musicians, different engineers, and all kinds of transitions. Coming to California to make the record, starting it in Oregon, etc. Wynn took all these ingredients from all these years and got everything up on the table and somehow put this puzzle together and went, boop.
There were a lot of challenges in mixing the record because it went through a lot of hands before I got here. But I think at the end of the day, we were able to capture the essence of the songwriter's intent. It was fun to mix.
You fell from grace and played the fool.